So 15 carries in a game, and including 5+ red zone carries in a game. That's insane to me.
Right here.
It's time to talk about the Monday Night Football matchup in prime time. We have the Baltimore Ravens hosting the Indianapolis Colts in a 46-point over-under. Baltimore favored by 7 at home here. But if you like, Fran, I don't know if I'm going to love this game, to be honest with you, because it just doesn't look that great. Colts haven't been exciting, but what is exciting is the daily fantasy football content that we give you, Whisper Nation. So make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, and join us over on the YouTube channel and help us continue to grow the channel today. All right, Johnny, let's talk about, though, the Indianapolis side of the ball first, because that's what we have to do. For this one, it does feel like more of a Hines game between Jonathon Taylor and Nyheim Hines. We've seen that when the game script makes the Colts heavy dogs, that we look to see Hines getting more involved, but he did get added late to the injury report on Thursday. So make sure you're monitoring this. By the time you see this or hear this, you may know a whole lot more on Nyheim Hines. But, Johnny, how do you break down the backfield given, let's say, both parties are healthy here?
Yeah, it didn't seem to be a very serious issue with Nyheim Hines, but again, we'll continue to monitor it. If he is active and plays, like Travis said, the game script actually flows in Hines' favor in this game, being that they are 7-point underdogs in this game, so you have to throw in order to catch up. Baltimore also allowing the 4th most receiving yards to opposing running backs this season, and Nyheim Hines has been the far and better targeted running back as far as Indianapolis. We did see Jonathon Taylor. He has been dabbling in the receptions, but hasn't seen much more than 3 targets other than that first game so far this season. So I do like Hines, and something interesting to note, whenever you look at the schedule and you see, against like an opponent in which they should be coming from behind, you see Nyheim Hines' rushing share and snap share jump all the way up to 50 plus, around 50%. And when he is not in a game or a positive game or negative game script, I should say, you see his snap share going about the mid 30%. So there's quite a big jump there. Now, when I'm talking about JT here, you're going to get him in your lineup. He is seeing a healthy 3 targets a game, like I mentioned. Only one game this season and where Jonathon Taylor hasn't had at least, this is wild, 15 carries, including Travis. So 15 carries in a game, and including 5+ red zone carries in a game. That's insane to me. He's getting so much work in the red area. But again, this is a difficult matchup. 8th fewest rushing yards on the season. Baltimore is allowing opposing running backs. So again, monitor that situation heavily with Hines, because if he doesn't give it a go, then it could be a little bit more pass attack for Jonathon Taylor, and we'll have to monitor that. But you can get Jonathon Taylor in your lineup more as an RB2 this week.
Colts have been a little bit quiet on offense, including Jonathon Taylor. I mean, that's wild to see those stats you just talked about, but quiet has also been the story with Michael Pittman, Johnny, even though he's seeing a lot of volume. And I think it's because we're looking at Carson Wentz on 2 bum ankles, try to make this offense do anything. And so I got to ask you, even with the volume that Pittman is liking to see, is he worth a flex in this one against Baltimore? It looks like a tough matchup on paper. But we've seen some teams get on Baltimore, Kansas City, Vegas. What's your feeling on this game?
Only allowing 3 receiving touchdowns on the season so far, and 9th fewest in fantasy points. That is Baltimore to opposing wide receivers. But the interesting thing is Pittman's volume should be able to carry him, and especially with them being down, especially too if they don't have a guy like Nyheim Hines, you could see him getting a couple more targets. But seeing a healthy 8 targets in the last 3 games, 8+ targets, 3 games with a red zone look, he seems to be that kind of go-to wide receiver for Wentz. And Pascal, he's just not seeing enough targets for me in order to even have confidence in a flex play due to the matchup, Travis. But I do need to ask you, dude, we were asking for preseason, maybe, and then we said there was some potential. Is Big Bo Alie? Is it time, dude?
It is. I actually want to call my shot a little bit here, Johnny, because
you won't.
It's a whack-a-mole situation. We definitely feel like we're chasing the 2 touchdowns from last week. But Alie Cox last night had 69%. Nice snap percentage. That was the first time over 51% and his highest of the year. So we love that. The 2 touchdowns are obviously great. We look at Carson Wentz's past in using tight ends. We look at this offense's past in using tight ends. And then we have a situation with Alie Cox that we love. And Baltimore, Johnny, you think about week 3, they held Hawkinson to 1 point. And yet Baltimore is still giving up the most points per game to the tight end position. They've allowed 3 tight end touchdowns on the year. I think Alie Cox is a great streamable option this week. I would stream him in a lot of situations. Maybe you had Robert Tonyan and he's failed you. Maybe you're worried about a Noah Fant, even though I think Noah Fant in a very tough matchup with Drew Lock and what's going on with Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy B.
I would actually go with Alie Cox here. I think he's got a good opportunity to be some of the points that they're able to score on Baltimore, because it seems to be a sieve. You can attack the middle of the field with the tight end, and Alie Cox is one of the better tight ends in the league after the catch.
Just see his opportunity, baby.
Yeah, I love it. So when we look at the Baltimore side finally here, Johnny, Lamar, I just want to touch in on Lamar because he's low key. He's dealing right now as a passer. Lamar Jackson's 8.7 yards per pass attempt is nearly a full yard higher than any previous year in his career. We're including the MVP season. He's the QB 10 overall. He's been living off rushing, but now he's going to get an Indy team that's allowing 20 points per game to the position. And Johnny, check this out. They've given up 11 passing touchdowns to the quarterback position. That's tops in the NFL. Indy is getting torched right now through the air, and not just torched, they're giving up pay dirt to these quarterbacks. So I love Lamar in this matchup. I think he's a fired up. I mean, he should be in your lineup regardless, because of the floor. But if you had the slow game against Denver that's getting you a little nervous and you're like, dude, fire it up. It's time for Lamar to go a little bit ballistic here on this one. And Johnny, I wanted to ask you.
Kudos to you, Travis. You had talked about this when Lamar was coming out of college, right? You talked about how Lamar had improved every single year in college on his throwing. And it's seeing
Lamar is just a fantastic quarterback. He says the right things. He's a little bit I don't know. He's a little bit off sometimes. You're like, oh, mentally, maybe he's like not all there, but he's definitely says all the right things. I mean, remember him coming out talking about wanting to be like Aaron Rodgers, not that it's bad to want to be like Michael Vick in this, if you're Lamar Jackson, but he was saying he wanted to be a pocket passer. He wanted to develop, and what he's done is go out and do that. And I just think it's a good opportunity here. And now we're seeing the pieces around him really coming to fruition. Marquise Brown stepping his game up, Rashod Bateman coming back, Mark Andrews finally turning the corner this year. So I think for me, Sammy Watkins has stayed healthy. I think all these weapons added up means there's going to be more yards per pass attempt, which we have seen out of Lamar Jackson. I think this is a great game to attack. But I wanted to ask you about those pass catchers, Johnny, and then also Rashod Bateman as this kind of stash for us right now.
Yeah, Bateman's definitely a stash for me. I'm grabbing him on waivers right now before, people see him or it gets completely cleared that he'll be playing, because he is one of the most electric wide receivers we saw come in this wide receiver class this year. We saw him pop off in preseason. So, yeah, he's definitely worth a stash to me. Marquise Brown continuously is someone that I'm staying in the flames with. This guy is on fire right now. He seems to be the apple of Lamar's eye, getting deep targets every single week, which you love. And sure, he has some drops. He has some drops, but we're big fans of Deontay around here. We're no strangers to drops. Come on, it'll be okay. I do want to say this matchup is so beyond juicy that you not only need to get Marquise in your lineup, but you should trust him because he's tied. They're tied for the first in touchdowns allowed to the wide receiver position with 8 this season. They're tied with Tennessee. We talk about how if you have your wide receivers against Tennessee, you get them in your lineup. Same thing with this matchup here. And then you're also looking at the defense who's allowing the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So you're sticking in the flames with Marquise this week.
Would you start A.J. Brown if he's able to go? I know people are going to be watching or listening to this after A.J. Brown's news, but would you start A.J. Brown if he's ready to go or Marquise Brown?
I would go A.J. Brown in that case, just because I just feel like he is much more of a possession guy, and I have more confidence that he will get repeatedly fed the rock, especially with what ends up happening with Julio too. We got to monitor that, but it would be close for me though. It would be close for me.
All right, Johnny, we're going to talk a little bit about these running backs here, if we have to. I don't think there's anything here for us, right? Like, there's nothing here, even in this game where they're favorites, that we'd be willing to put into our lineup, right, Johnny?
Yeah, I'm sticking away from these guys. Listen, Latavius Murray seems to be the guy. They're giving him the red zone and goal line looks there. He's getting the bulk of the carries. They did bring LeVeon Bell back in, Travis, and gave him some snaps. And so I am a little concerned what they're doing over there. But again, if you have to throw a guy in there from this backfield, I do think Latavius is the guy, but not the greatest matchup either on paper. Ninth fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. We expect a lot of throwing.
Anything else you want to touch on in the Baltimore offense here? Anything else you'd like to get in and tell Whisper Nation about, or we think we're good to go with the Ravens?
Just touching on and Mark Andrews, you're going to stay in the flames with him. He's not had the biggest breakout year or been one of the better tight ends as of yet, but he has had 3 straight games over 50 receiving yards. And then you look at this matchup here on paper, and you're seeing that they haven't given up they have given up 2 receiving touchdowns so far this season, 2 tight ends. I do think that Mark Andrews could score against the Indianapolis Colts defense.
He should have had a touchdown last week. I got called back against Denver. But yeah, I think Andrews is pretty much Andrews and Marquise Brown and Bateman coming back to the offense should only help those two continue to establish dominance. So let's see what happens in this one. Whisper Nation, we appreciate you rocking with us on this one. Make sure you're subbed over on the YouTube channel by clicking subscribe to the Fantasy Whispers, and make sure you hit that like button for us. For Johnny Game Time Hicks, for Big Travie, myself, we are the Fantasy Whispers. We're out of here. Peace.
Peace.
Right here.
Congratulations on making it to the end of the video. If you still have a lot to say about fantasy football, maybe you want to give Johnny a little bit of crap for his take today, then go on over to our Discord channel and join the conversation there. Click the link in the description below. And if you still want more content, check out one of these videos. Homie, don't you hear the whispers?